Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the only show on the internet where we talk about all things sci-fi, fantasy movies, TVs, books, etc. Hello, Daniel, in the other camera. Hello,
Hello,
Victor.
Dan.
Hello, Julie. Hello, Martha. Good to see everybody. Hope you're all doing really well. But Daniel, because you can talk to me directly, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, and I'm doing better than ever because I'm enjoying admiring your sleek new background. For audio listeners, come watch on YouTube so you can see how nice Dan's room looks. But no, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here today to talk shop about Game of Thrones stuff, shows coming out in April, and probably Wheel of Time. I'm sure we'll talk about Wheel of Time today too.
Of
How
course
are
we
you, Dan?
will. What are we watching? I'm good. Yes, if you're listening to audio listeners, we have a video portion to this show, and I decided, Dan, you're going to get some visual interest. My inspiration, obviously, is David Lynch in the film Blue Velvet. So I had these curtains that were already in my house, and I bought like a freestanding rack thing and just put them on, and we'll see how it goes. I think so far it's
Nice.
going pretty well.
Yes, I'm a fan. Scruffy is so Scruffy is Dan's dog. Scruffy is hidden behind
Scruffy
the
is
curtain, like
right
as
behind there.
it's like a magic trick. Nice. But yeah,
He's
so
there.
we've got some stuff to talk about today beyond curtains, even though we could do a whole show on curtains, and maybe at some point we should. Curtains, pennant flags, what do they mean based on what kingdom you're in Westeros? But no, what are we going to talk about today, Dan?
Okay, we're gonna start with the Drape Runners. We're gonna start with some Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, filmy stuff because it's all happening. It's all happening.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna go, and then we're gonna go into an April preview because I didn't realize how much stuff is coming up next month.
It's
It's
packed.
the end of March, and they are not gonna let up. We're gonna be watching so many things, talking about so many things all throughout next month. I'm sure we're gonna find the time for it, but I'm going to. We're going to. We're gonna do it for you. But
Somehow.
first up, I thought we would take a quick stopover in Westeros, where filming is getting started in earnest on the third season of House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
Thanks to Unbox PhD for getting these great behind the scenes photos. They're on Twitter. They are excellent. For example, they have this one. They got
Yeah.
God, did Corlys rename it to the Queen Who Never Was at the end of the second season? I think it's Corlys Valerian's boat.
I think that does ring a bell. I think that's true. It used to be the sea snake,
Oh.
presumably now it's the queen who never was. Um yeah, so I it's amazing. I have to give kudos to, like Dan said, Unboxed PhD is the person who does all of these photography leaks. I don't
They're
know
really
how
good.
they did this last season too, and it was like in a public park, so it was like they couldn't stop him because it was or her, I don't know who you are, couldn't stop him them because it was in a public park, but like this looks to me like a drone shot over their set, and
It's
somehow
absolutely a drone shot.
it's still just happening. But yeah, this is a ship because presumably, spoiler alert, the Battle of the Gullet, which is a big naval battle, we were all disappointed didn't happen at the end of season two. Is probably going to kick off season three. I'd expect it in the first episode
Oh yeah.
or two tops, probably the premiere. But yeah, that's probably why what this ship's about. And filming
100%.
hasn't started yet, right? They were doing the table read, so they're like on the cusp of filming. They're
There have
building
been
set.
debates whether it's like, for all I know, they're probably doing it behind closed doors, like a little bit. I don't know if 100% sure, but it's
Yeah.
either has just started or is just about to start.
They have not announced officially publicly in any capacity that it has started, but all the signs are there that it will be starting any minute of any day in the near future. So yeah, what else have we got to look at here? There's another one, right?
Yeah, we have another one from Unbox PhD, excellent drone photographer extraordinaire, just of a set going up in a parking lot and a town. What town is it, Daniel?
Well, the obvious town we're thinking it
Oh,
is probably Tumbleton, which for book readers who've read Fire and Blood, you know what Tumbleton is. For people who haven't read the book, so Tumbleton is this town in, I believe, the Reach
hmm,
that plays a pretty major role in the Dance of the Dragons. There are multiple battles that happen at Tumbleton throughout the war, and we know that it's coming because it kind of got foreshadowed last season. Hugh Hammer's wife, Katz, was kind of like, let's escape King's Landing and go live with my brother in Tumbleton.
There you go.
And Hugh Hammer instead was like, I have a big destiny. I'm going to go ride a dragon instead.
Also
So he ditched his wife, which was real stat, and went to get a dragon. And he did get a dragon. Hugh plays a very large role in the battles at Tumbleton. So this all seems like very clear setup. We know they're going to probably cut or change some stuff. There are a lot of battles in the Dance of the Dragons. They can't do every single one, but Tumbleton's pretty crucial, and the pieces are on the board for it already. So that's our best guess. But I mean, you can see viewers on YouTube or Facebook, this set is still in early days, so it could look totally different by the time they're done. But Tumbleton's our best guess.
it's almost certainly Tumbleton. Which kind of gives us a clue about the shape of the season. We've talked before about how do they fit the rest of the story into presumably 2 more seasons. Maybe they'll get more. And the Battle of Tumbleton could be a end for the season. I can't think of how else they would do it, but we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I won't lie. I never lie to our viewers and friends on this stream. But in this particular instance, I especially won't lie. I'm a little worried about House of the Dragon right now. And I enjoyed a lot of last season. I think it had some tremendous episodes. I thought the finale was a big old weak way to end the season. I mean, it was an enjoyable turd, but perhaps it was a little turdier than I would have liked for a season finale. But I think the thing that concerns me at this point is like they didn't even hit the Battle of the Gullet. They didn't hit the taking of King's Landing, which I'll refer to obliquely for the sake of spoilers. But we're not at the halfway point of the story in terms of where we are in the show. So I like when I think of the big events like the God's Eye, I wondered if that would happen in season 3. I think it's pretty safe to say we're probably not going to see the God's Eye in season 3. So it's kind of like if they have 4 seasons, they're going to really need to fly through events in the back half. And that worries me a little bit. So we're just going to get a big old montage at the end of how it all resolves.
Maybe they'll get another season. I don't know. It feels like they would have to if they really want to pace it in a way that would be pleasing to the viewers. But we'll find out. We'll see. Right now, it's cool to see him starting up, and we'll keep an eye out for all that.
Totally.
By the way, to interrupt this really quickly, I just checked my email while we were talking just absently. Guess who just got screeners for The Last of Us Season 2? I'll give you a hint. It's me.
Nice. That's exciting. And so we're going to talk about The Last of Us soon. You were, but let's just mention it here. So you attended a press conference for that this week, right? Yeah. Did you get any good insights because that's coming out next month? We're going to talk about it shortly. But tell us your insights now.
Not really. They said it's going to be good. Said, we'll talk about it a little later. I was just excited because I literally just got the screener. So I'll be watching those before everybody else. I love that.
Nice.
But and I'll be telling you everything I know, but not in a way that will offend HBO, of course. Daniel, sticking with Game of Thronesy stuff, we do know a little more about Under the Seven Kingdoms. So Under the Seven Kingdoms is the next Game of Thrones prequel show, which, by the way, I am finally reading. I know last time you guys got on my case, justifiably so. I'm not quite done yet, but we'll talk about that soon. There's going to be a new Spanish version coming out in June 19th, which we can use to deduce that the new season, the first season of the show, will probably come out sometime after June 19th, because you put out the book, you get some hype going for it, people buy it, they read it, they get excited, and then they watch it. So it's looking like a fall release.
Yeah, we did this with the first season of House of the Dragon as well. Kind of like looking at, publishers will often do tie-in editions where it has, Matt Smith's face on the cover for House of the Dragon. They didn't do that with House of the Dragon, thankfully. It was a Targaryen sigil in the style of the HBO show. But presumably this new reprinting of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which is the first, the only 3 Duncan Egg novellas published to date, are kind of collected in this one omnibus edition. Yeah, they're releasing it June 19th in Spain. Spain has a pretty good scene for A Song of Ice and Fire. They filmed a lot of King's Landing there for Game of Thrones. Pretty sure they've returned there for House of the Dragon. So there's a culture of loving Game of Thrones in that country. So it makes
There
sense
it is.
that they'd be doing a reprint like this. But yeah, this kind of lines up with what we figured, right? Like, I don't think either of us thought it was going to come earlier than June.
No, back half of the year. I thought it might come out earlier before we knew anything, but there's no room. Everything else is coming out earlier, so it makes sense they're going to put it in the back half.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, well, The Last of Us premieres April 13th. HBO is not going to be overlapping its shows, so that is going to run probably until the very beginning of June. I don't know how HBO will fill the time between The Last of Us and A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, but they must have more than those two shows this year. They'll figure it out.
Are you
Um,
kidding? It's not just sci-fi. But obviously, we're talking about sci-fi fantasy show, but there's more stuff than that. Hacks comes back next season. I love next month. I love Hacks. So much stuff. But anyway,
yeah.
before we go on to that, you had a cool little Game of Thrones excursion recently. Daniel, tell us about that.
I did, yeah. So I spoke with a rare book collector from France. It's Walden Rare Books, Library Walden, with Hervé Valentine over there. And basically, he has gathered a first edition set of A Song of Ice and Fire books that are all signed by George, that are all in perfect condition. He's bringing them to the ABAA New York International Antiquarian Book Fair, which is a mouthful, bringing it there to this basically like rare book collectors book fair in New York City from April 3rd to the 6th, and displaying them there, trying to sell them there. But I spoke to him, and part of that is I just think it's so interesting that, like, so for people who've never seen first editions of A Song of Ice and Fire, almost every book has a totally different cover design because the books got new covers at various benchmarks in the series run. The original Game of Thrones has a totally different cover that is unlike any of the rest of them. It's just the Iron Throne. Yeah, Victor Di Giovanni in the chat says, I don't miss the old days of non-matching covers, which is fair. Like, since A Dance with Dragons, a lot of these covers have been reprinted so that they all match. But when you look at the first editions of the set, you kind of almost get like a time capsule going through the history of this series and kind of publishing trends and stuff like that. So yeah, that was a really interesting conversation. We talked about like how A Song of Ice and Fire took off almost faster in France than it did in the United States because it went to reprints like immediately. Like, it sold out within its first month. It was published there like 2 years after it was published in the US. And like, A Song of Ice and Fire was popular in the US, but it didn't really start taking off until A Storm of Swords, the third book. That's when it hit the New York Times bestseller list for the first time. So yeah, this was it was a fascinating conversation. It is up on the website and the YouTube channel if you want to check it out. But yeah, do you have any questions about this? Because it was interesting. I enjoyed this a lot.
I don't have questions, but you're right. It was cool. I didn't know about these pre-release versions of books sent around to reviewers, bookstores, publishers, as kind of to.
Yeah.
I'd not heard of this, so thank you for educating me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
called a what again? An ARC?
They're called an ARC, yeah, an ARC, advanced reading copies. And so up on the screen now, if you're audio listening, go look at this on YouTube because I think this is just stupid cool. Basically, publishers will print these copies of books in the lead up to before they're published they're often on like lower quality paper. They're not the final copy, so they're like typos and stuff. It hasn't gone through proofreading.
That's cool.
It's like it can still be adjusted before the final edition comes out. But these are to get like early interest. So reviewers, booksellers, other publishers, other authors, they get sent these to kind of, get everyone hyped. And yeah, I had never seen one of these for a Game of Thrones because obviously Martin was already like, he wasn't well known in the fantasy space, but he had been writing for years at this point. Yeah. So that they invested in doing this really nice early reading copy of a Game of Thrones that has unique artwork that I had never seen, that's never appeared on any other edition of the book. Looks to me like Catelyn Stark arriving at the Eyrie and being greeted by Sir Vardis Egan when she's taking Tyrion to the Eyrie. Um, and yeah, this is another thing. We didn't talk too much about this early reader copy, but this is also at that book fair in New York City from April 3rd to the 6th. And Walden Rare Books sent me a picture to check this out after. And I was like, wow, that is very, very cool.
It's so cool. I mean, again, like original art just for an
Yes.
advanced reader copy. Also, I want to guess that these days, publishers like the two that are left probably send digital advanced copies rather than physical ones? Or is it
No,
still like a thing that happens?
it's totally still a thing that happens. They
That's
still
nice.
do both. Digital copies are way more prominent now, so
Sure.
the nice thing about that is people can get them wherever they are in the world.
Mhm.
Publishers don't need to be quite as choosy about where they send a digital copy, but
Sure.
they still send, physical ones. That's I do a lot of reading of physical ARC editions. This book I'm reading right now is one of those. It comes out on April 15th. So the answer is yes, but it's also kind of interesting because you can almost tell like the type of investment a publisher is putting into a
Sure.
book by how fancy the arc is.
Mhm.
Not always, but like for something like that, A Song of Ice and Fire, where it was like that looked like a hardcover arc, which most publishers don't do
Ooh.
that anymore. Like they never do that with like you said, unique artwork. It had I know that Martin has talked about this, how Robert Jordan like gave him a quote that helped him out in his early career. That's on the cover of that arc edition we just had the picture up of.
That's very
Um,
nice.
so yeah, it's cool because it's a time capsule looking at the history of the series. Like this is an artifact historically at this point because they probably only printed 500 1,000 of these, like not a lot of them. So yeah, it's very cool to look back at the series a little bit in that interview and ogle some rare books.
Gotta love it. And what's the
Yeah,
book fair they're all gonna be at?
it is the ABAA New York International Antiquarian Book Fair at the Park Avenue Armory in New York City from April 3rd to the 6th. So if you're in New York City, you can go look at these in person and check them out.
There's some rare books. That's really, really
Yeah.
cool, Daniel. Congrats.
Yeah. Thanks.
All right, let's move on and let's talk about some of the sci-fi fantasy delicacies coming to our TV screens in April, because I did not realize how damn many there were until I started just looking at it and being
Yeah.
like, wow, they're really loading a lot into a short amount of space. I'm not sure what's going to be left for the rest of the year. Let me just kind of run through these kind of lightning round-ish style, lightning round expanded, and
Sure.
see, are we interested? Do we like it? Are we going to watch? Should we watch? Gesundheit?
Yes. Thank you.
And let's hit it. I think there are a couple that we're definitely interested in, but there's also a lot of other ones. All right. Starting with, I put this one
Yeah.
on just for you.
I
Uh,
appreciate
on,
it.
on April 3rd, Netflix, I believe, will get the first season of the Devil May Cry animated series. And I'll go ahead and rank that as a solid 4 out of 10 for my interest, but I know that you're into it. Why are
That's
you into it,
right.
Dad?
That's right. I'm going to rank it as a solid 10 out of 10 for my interest. I will be
Really?
taking. Yeah, I mean, I love Devil May Cry. I've been playing those games since I was a teenager. I think they're so much fun, and they're about this devil hunter. He's half devil, half human. He goes around with a very bad attitude, slicing up devils. His name is Dante,
Hate
and yeah,
shirts.
yeah. So this series is being done by I forget his name, Avi Arad, I think. He's
Yeah.
the person who did the first 2 seasons of the Castlevania show on Netflix before he was kind of forced out of that show. So, which coincidentally, those are like the 2 best seasons. So this has been a passion project for him for like 6 years. So I'm very curious. I love the Devil May Cry games, and I'm totally gonna give this a chance. I hope it doesn't suck. There's definitely that possibility. It could be a giant steaming turd, but I am hopeful that it is not.
I'm sure it'll be fun. Avi Arad is very big on style. I'm
Yeah,
sure it'll be diverting.
which
I
is
just,
perfect
I don't
for
know.
this. It's perfect for, I mean, Devil May Cry is big on style, so
Yes, it is.
feels like a perfect fit. What were you
I'm
gonna
in
say?
trouble.
You're gonna shade it. I'm sorry.
I'm not shading it. I just, I,
Ah,
I, I played the games when I was younger too. I just have a hard time getting really excited about it. But right after that, on April 8th, we have the, I believe, sixth and final season of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu. A story for our times about a dystopian American society where they have taken a birth rate crisis and used it as an excuse to subjugate women to second class status and make them, the few fertile ones, birth babies for their new fascist tyrannical overlords. Just went on for a long time. I watched the first couple seasons. I fell off. But I always appreciate a show. Sometimes there's energy when a show
Yeah.
wraps up, when it kind of goes toward its end. And it has been, consistently enjoyed, consistently watched, consistently solid for 6 years. And I hope the fans who have kept up with it are going to love the ending, which I
Yeah.
believe goes well beyond the text of Margaret Atwood's book by this point. I think the first book, maybe the second, adapted her Handmaid's Tale book, and it's kind of been off in her own land ever since.
Yeah, I saw Victor in the chat saying Handmaid's Tale 2 out of 10 should have been a 2-season show, so bloated and overdone. And it
That's kind
is.
of the consensus, yeah.
I haven't watched The Handmaid's Tale, but I do know that, like you said, like the first season, maybe two, did Atwood's book. So they've been kind of forging their own path for like 4 seasons. Sounds to me like it is time for that show to end.
Yeah.
So that's not one that I am watching currently, but it has its fans, so I'm sure it will be a big deal. I just need to drop a correction in here. Victor asked about Avi Arad. I said the wrong name. It's Addie Shanker is the person doing Devil May Cry.
That's right.
My bad. Misspoke. But yeah, what's next on our hit list here, Dan?
One thing anybody can enjoy, the new, is it 7th, I believe, season of Black Mirror?
I believe it is.
Very long-running sci-fi anthology show on Netflix, where every episode is distinct. Every episode is, what if technology was actually scary? Which I do believe is something we can relate to more and more, the deeper we get into the 21st century. That show was a really big hit out of the gate and kept up steam for a few seasons. I feel like it's dropped off a bit, but you don't have to watch it at all to enjoy it because all the episodes are distinct. And I know they're going to do a sequel to that Star Trek in a digital space parody, which I
USS
did really
Callister.
enjoy. That one was fun.
It was.
I will check that out. This is a good show because it's not really a high stakes ask. You can kind of get into it, watch episode that looks intriguing to you, and then watch the next, or don't, and then come back anytime you want and not be lost.
Totally. That's the thing I always like about Black Mirror. I mean, I've enjoyed, Black Mirror feels like it's a little hit or miss to me. Like the last season was kind of the perfect example of this. So season 6, they took a big long break when the pandemic happened because the showrunner was like, do we really need more bleakness in the world? Maybe I'll just hang out till people want this again. And then season 6, it was only 6 episodes and approximately half of them were really good. And the other half were like, all right, they had some weird ideas. One of them was like about a werewolf. And I was like, the technological angle of this is pretty non-existent. Some of them went really weird in a way that felt almost at odds with the tone of Black Mirror typically as like kind of these modern day parables of, cautionary tales and whatever. But yeah, I'm excited for the 7th season. Like you said, it's a low stakes ask. You can dip in and out of it. And when it's good, it's really good. So I'm sure I'll be like checking it out. I probably won't dominate my life for 6 weeks or anything, but like the wheel of time, but I will certainly be checking it out.
I agree with Victor. I will be in it for that USS Callister sequel. I am curious. I really liked that one. I watched it after nothing about Black Mirror for years, and I was like, I was so entertained by this.
Yeah.
So I'll be back for that. I don't know about the rest of them. We'll see. Okay. We're not even halfway through the month. On April 12th, we have the return of Doctor Who, which is a very long-running British sci-fi show about a time-traveling, godlike, immortal being who's extremely British and quirky no matter what time or place he's in. Show's been through a lot of ups and downs over the years. They got Ncuti Gatwa in the main role. I did try watching Doctor Who again when Ncuti Gatwa got in, and I was 100% whelmed and I
Okay.
didn't really keep it up. Um, Frankly, I wonder if it's time for that show to wind down a bit. It
Wow.
has been, I mean, it's Doctor Who. It's gone through ups and downs before. It goes through like periods where it's big, and then it slows down, and then it takes a break, and then it comes back. Maybe we're entering a break period. I feel like they might have exhausted some of the ideas at this point. Um, but I know it has its fans, even if the fans are dwindling a bit. I feel pretty
Yeah.
down on it, don't I?
You do sound mildly down on it. So here, allow me to sound also down on it. No, I'm not a Whovian. I've seen some episodes. I enjoyed them. It's never been enough to hook me. But that's just kind of has more to do probably with my taste in shows. Like I like meteor sci-fi fantasy
Sure.
shows. Like Doctor Who is kind of an adventure of the week, kind of like you said, very quirky, very charming type of show. There have been some episodes I really, really enjoyed, but never enough that it like made me watch all 50
Yeah.
seasons, or it's hard to keep up with however many seasons there are, because it is the eternally ongoing show. It's like the longest running sci-fi show in
It's like
history.
the revival has been on for over like 15, 16 years at this point.
Yes, a very long time.
So just limiting yourself to the brand new seasons that were produced after the old one went away, even that's huge.
Yes, and I think it's in an interesting place because right now it is Doctor Who, and there's a new Doctor who people apparently really like, but it is also Doctor Who with Mickey Mouse cheddar behind it, because Disney is now pushing Doctor Who onto Disney Plus. They're dumping a whole bunch of their money into it, and I don't know if that's going to be good or not for Doctor Who, because I think part of the charm of it has always been that it is like kind of camp sci-fi. Like I don't know that a glitzy, shiny, special effects driven Doctor Who is what people even necessarily want. So yeah, I'm curious to see how it's received, but I will say that I probably will not be watching personally. Definitely won't be. I'll be honest, because I'm always honest
Go
with our
ahead. Yeah.
viewers.
I like Victor's comment that Doctor Who is a ritual show, where the fans love the ritual of how the show plays out. New Doctor, new companion, new Doctor interaction, each of the classic antagonists, etc. Which is true. You
Yes,
can you can go a long way in that ritual. I do think any ritual starts to slow down after a while, and
sure.
I wonder if it might go to the next part of the ritual, which is hibernation for a few years.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think whenever Nakuti Gatwa steps down, because that is the natural rhythm of this show, doctors come and go, and there are new doctors. I think it will be interesting to see whether the show slows down at that point, whether it takes a break at that point, what it does after that. But I hope that it's a good season. And I hope people like it. Like, not trying to get down on Doctor Who. I'm happy for the fans who've been enjoying it. But yeah, it is in an interesting place right now, I think, as a series.
All right, next up. Okay, we're done with the first half of the month. No, we're not. We're still on it. My God. On April 13th, the day after Doctor Who, HBO airs The Last of Us Season 2, which I think we are pretty excited about.
Yes.
HBO continues to do this thing where it is just making these kind of very prestigious, very sort of singular dramas that it sells based on the sheen and the polish. And the
Mhm.
first season, this was really, really successful. People love Pedro Pascal, they love Bella Ramsey, they love zombies. And the second is going to be the prestige zombie series of our time. By the way, but I agree with you about Doctor Who. Too British for me as well. The British, they're a strange, pale-skinned people. But The Last of Us, I will definitely be watching.
Yeah, me too. The Last of Us is, I think, the show I am most excited for. It's tight with Andor, which we'll talk about soon. But I really loved the Last of Us Part 2 video game. I think it's like one of the best video games I've played in recent years. And this is one of those shows where it feels like the juice is behind it right now. The showrunners
Yeah.
are very passionate about it. It's Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, who is the person who was the director of the games, creator of the games. And yeah, I think they've got a great cast. I think the part of the story they're getting into is going to be meaty and intricate and a lot for people to process, because the game was a lot for people to process. People who don't game might not know, but there's kind of a very famous horrific backlash to this game because it didn't give people exactly what they wanted, and they acted like big crying babies about it in some pretty horrible ways. But hopefully the show will not have that issue because people have been sitting with this material for a while. But yeah, I'm so excited for this show and for some of the scenes we're going to see that we've already seen in the trailers. Dan, where does this fall on your scale of 1 to 10 of hype?
I give it a 9. Yeah. I feel
Okay.
like folk are getting excited about it. I'm almost as excited for the discourse around it as I am the show itself. I liked
Hmm.
it a lot. Um, Victor said it was 6.5 out of 10 to play the games. Interesting-ish. I enjoyed the first season quite a bit. I'll admit some parts were more exciting than others. Somebody said it wasn't very close to the game. Oh, Boo Boo Boobo. I thought it was quite close to the game.
Bubo
I
says it was
played both
too
games.
close. He says too close. They say
Oh.
too close to the games, needed more freedom, which is interesting because I think in some instances they did really pull the freedom card, like the Bill and Frank episode, like some of the changes they made in the two-part episode in it's not Philadelphia in the show. I think it's like somewhere in Missouri. I forget it's Kansas City, Missouri, or something like that. The fourth and fifth episodes. Um, but that's an interesting criticism that it was too faithful to the games, and that was a problem.
Yeah, I disagree. I think it was a really good example of showrunners who really honored the source material and took the best parts of the story and put them on screen, but also didn't chain themselves to it to the point where they couldn't kind of go off and do their own thing. I thought it was a really
Yeah,
good adaptation, and I'm into it. I'm looking
yeah.
forward to it, and I will watch. Victor says, as a non-gamer, it never felt like a game adaptation, which I think is true.
Which is how it should it's how it should have felt, because so the Last of Us games are very cinematic. That's kind of
Yeah,
their claim to fame was, oh damn, here's storytelling that's on par with an HBO show, but it's in a video game. um and so it's very easy, this is different than something like Mario or Zelda, where it's like, how do they make that coherent in a movie? It's like for the Last of Us, they really just had to do the story without messing it up, like it cuts out very neatly to the smaller big screen, I think, compared to many games.
yeah,
Um,
wonderful.
but there is another show coming out in April that we're very excited for. Um,
Ridiculous. Like a week and change later, April 22nd, second and final season of Star Wars Andor comes out. Now, okay, Star Wars, ups and downs. Hard to get me really excited about something. If I'm gonna get excited about anything, it'll be Star Wars Andor. Because
yeah.
this is a show. Talk about like adaptation, talk about weaving and bobbing in between something. This is a show where Tony Goer, the guy who makes it, has done a really good job of making a show that is clearly identifiably a Star Wars show, but doing things it feels like no one else is willing to even touch.
Mm,
Like that first season where the main character is imprisoned on sort of frivolous charges and is radicalized by the brutality of the prison system. I would never have imagined a Star Wars thing getting that serious, but it didn't feel like it wasn't Star Wars. It always felt like it was very much plausibly in that galaxy, but it was delving into themes and taking it more seriously than I think maybe anybody ever has.
yeah.
And perhaps part of the thing that is Star Wars is, just like is that it doesn't take itself terribly seriously. The original movies are basically like, they're good, but they're like kind of whiz bang adventure films in part. I don't
Yeah,
think they're
sure.
really trying to be Shakespearean tragedies.
No.
But Andor takes itself very, very seriously and tries to have a lot of weight. And I think it does. Like, I was impressed with that season, and I'm looking forward to what they have next.
Yeah, same. I think it's such a testament to Andor that when Andor was announced, my initial this was kind of in the flood of um Bob Chapek, who was the the
Oh, yeah,
previous
okay.
interim CEO for Disney who kind of pressured Marvel and Star Wars to announce a ton of shows, and they weren't really ready to announce all these shows. Andor was one of the shows in that flood of Star Wars things that was announced. And it was one where when I saw it, I was like, does anyone care about this?
Totally, I agree
Who
with you.
asked for this? And then the first season came out and it was excellent and totally turned around my opinion and so many viewers' opinions because it was just really good television. And like it feels like Star Wars, but it's also just really good TV in a way that a lot of the other very self-referential Star Wars things that have come out haven't really been. They've been good if you're like, so neck deep in the lore that you've seen all the cartoons 10 times through. But it's different than Andor, where it's like you can just watch Andor. It doesn't matter how much or how little you know, and you will grasp what's going on, and it will be moving and it will be powerful on it in its own right. So yeah, I'm excited for Andor season 2. I will absolutely be watching it. That'll probably be the thing that makes me restart my Disney Plus subscription because I don't have one currently because I'm just marveled out. So I haven't even watched the new Daredevil. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. And between those two, The Last of Us and Star Wars Andor, The Wheel of Time season 3 will have its finale. So that's going to be a
Mhm.
hell of a week of television.
Yeah, we're going to be spoiled, and obviously, we don't have to watch everything, but I'm glad that I'm glad and also a little overwhelmed. There's so much stuff happening all at once, everything, everywhere, all at once
Yeah.
on TV, but can't complain. Pretty happy about it.
No, good problems to have.
Good people talking discussion. Julie is not into Andor. Victor is all over Andor. It happens. People feel
Yeah.
differently. People like different things. It's okay. Okay, Daniel, before this whole
Woo.
onslaught happens, what are you watching now?
Oh, now there are shows now. Who? Well, I watched the finale of Severance, which I liked on the
Ah,
whole. I thought it was a really good episode. I didn't love how it ended. Um,
really, you didn't? Why didn't you like how it
ah,
ended?
well,
The
part of it,
windmills of my mind. I liked it.
yeah, that was cool, but I think the trope of person can't decide who to be with is not one I particularly enjoy in shows.
But he did decide.
It was literally a guy standing between two women trying to decide which one of them to run to. It's just not my favorite trope in a thing, even though I
Mm,
think they did it very interestingly. I did not expect spoilers here. I did not expect the argument between Mark's Innie and Audi, and I
yeah,
thought
yeah,
that
like it.
was really interesting. So I liked the episode, and I think as a whole, Severance season 2, I'm gonna give it an 8. I liked it a lot.
Sure.
I don't think I liked it as much as the first season, but I enjoyed it. So you have seen it, obviously. You watched it ahead of time.
Yeah.
How are you feeling now that the season is over? We have a
I
chance
thought
to
it
do it
held
in
together
person.
really, really well. I mean, it was always going to be kind of thing where I figured it might cohere better if you look back on it as a whole than week to week. Although I liked it week to week. It was more serious than the first one. Although I really enjoyed it and I liked the way it ended. And I think calling it so at the very end, spoilers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Talking about stuff is always so weird because we have to like use all the vocabulary. Any mark, new
Sure.
mark, office mark is can decide to retain his body and be with Helly or give his body over to his outie Mark and go be with his outie Mark's wife. I think I sound a little short by calling it the trope of a guy who can't decide which girl to go with.
Mhm.
I think it's a little more complicated, or actually quite
Well,
a lot more
well,
complicated
of
than that.
course it is, but that's the literal staging of the scene.
Mhm.
You're absolutely right. It is more complicated than that, and that is why it's not cringe and I really hated it because it is interesting. This idea that if Mark goes with Gemma, any Mark essentially ceases to exist in theory
Maybe,
because he
yeah.
doesn't
He has to
trust
trust her.
without and he doesn't. And I think that's fair, but like staging wise, that's literally what the scene was. He's standing in a hallway with one of them at each end. So that's just personal preference, not really my jam. I love triangles are not my favorite thing, even when they're done very interestingly.
Gotcha. Well, I think it's too bad that you're dinging the show for giving the form and not paying attention to the function. I
I
really liked it
also
though. I enjoyed it.
I also think that Helly made the case to Mark that he should go out and help Gemma leave and go
Mhm.
with her earlier in the episode, and then they backtrack at the end,
No,
specifically for
he
that
chose.
final
He
scene.
chose to ignore it, which good for him.
She
I
ran
I
she
wouldn't have ignored it,
But she
or I
ignored it
would have.
too. But she ignored it too
Yeah,
because she ran there to be like, "Come with me," after she had convinced him to go with Gemma earlier. So there are things there are things with Severance that aren't 100% airtight for me this season, but I still liked it. Still giving it an 8. Not
I'm gonna
shading
keep
it.
arguing though. Sorry, I don't need too much time, but are you saying that that's one things that's not airtight? Because like a character who kind of, if Helly said, "Okay, maybe you should try this," and then changes her mind because she wants to be with him, that's not a to me that's not a flaw. That's a character doing a thing that a person might do, which is
Which is
realize,
fair.
oh, I guess I'd rather live with a person I love rather than face oblivion. Because now they might have like a new lease on life. Perhaps they'll hold hostages. I don't know what they'll do, but they're gonna drink the wine while they can. I really liked
Yeah.
the ending. I love
Yeah.
that. I hope those kids hijack those bodies and take them to, I don't know, the Acapulcan floor
Yeah.
on the Severance Lumen building.
I do like the reversal of the fact that now that Mark is the one who's trapped inside and Jem is on the
Mhm.
outside. So there are things that I liked about it. And your point about people being irrational beasts of the mind is a fair one. I do think it undersells the conversation Helly had with him a little bit to have her then not Mark, but her then go
Mhm.
back on it and come to say goodbye to him, hoping he will change his mind.
I
Um,
disagree because I think there's a difference between like an inconsistency in lore and I don't know, like a person changing their mind and making a decision. Like people change their mind all the time.
sure.
Um, I get, but I realize that I think I'm outvoted because Victor's also saying that Severance is the TV show manifestation of the Cones of Dunshire from Parks and Rec. Just lore, 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 nonstop, fun but exhausting. I disagree with that too. That last one kind of shows why. That wasn't lore. That was passion.
I mean, it was yeah, but it was also both. I think this is a mystery box show, right? This is the mystery box show of our moment. Like Lost was the mystery box show of our moment, where it's like, oh, now we see why they have goats. It's because they
Mhm.
sacrifice the goats when they do this thing. But we didn't find out what the thing is. Like we found out that they were essentially trying to test whether any remnant of Gemma's psyche was still in there by
Yeah,
having her undergo these traumatic things, but we don't know why they sacrificed the goats. We don't know why Kier or Jamie Egan cares. We don't know what would have happened if they succeeded. We
yeah.
don't.
Like, why is it
So
important? We still
so
don't know.
which I don't mind because that's the type of show this is. It is a mystery box show. But I get that criticism. Even though it didn't bother me as much. But I love me some lore. So that didn't bother me, but I do see your point for sure.
I mean, I'll push back at that a little bit too, because it's a mystery box show. Yeah, there are things still to solve, but that's the reason I like the ending. Because what hooked me in was Mark and Helly being together. That's what I wanted, like, which
Sure.
is not part of the mystery box. That's two characters who want to be together, which is so. There's a lot of mysteries still to be solved, but there are also characters I like.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That is definitely fair and definitely true. So, yeah, Severance, they're saying we shouldn't have to wait as long for season 3. I hope that is the
I
case.
mean, it'd be impossible for us to wait as long for season three. That
Yeah,
was like 3 years.
totally. Um, but do you have anything else you want to say about Severance? Because there are other things.
No, I said more than I
Okay.
was going to.
All right.
The Wheel of Time, The Road to the
Yes.
Spear, that last episode
The
was
road to the
I
spear.
kept wanting to rewatch it. I'm gonna
Mm,
try and watch it tonight, and because I want to watch before the next one. Because
yeah.
this is the first episode of The Wheel of Time I've wanted to rewatch because it was that interesting, and you can tell there are details that I missed. Talk about lore, 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 by the way. But lore in a really delivered like a really evocative, beautiful way. I really enjoyed that one. It was
Yeah.
definitely a step up.
Yeah.
It just felt like it had more weight, more gravity, more gravitas. It
Yes.
felt bigger and more important and more prestigious. It didn't have that sort of, not to be too shady about these, that like kind of Xena Herculesy sheen that the show sort of has in its worst moments, where it kind of feels a little on the cheesy side, this felt confident and complete and comprehensive and like it had depth. I really loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what Victor said. Best episode of the series
Yeah.
so far, not even close. And there are other episodes I really liked. My other favorite before this was Eyes Without Pity, which was the
Yeah,
sixth
I
episode of
agree.
season 2, which was Egwene's episode where she's tortured by the Shan-Chan. And I thought this was better than that. I think it was a genius move to have Yosha Stradowski, who plays Rand, play each life. I think that was a really, really cool way to ground the viewer in each life, to kind of show like he's experiencing these things. And some of the flashes where you see like when he comes back to himself and he's screaming with like the grief his father felt, realizing that he was taken and his mother had been killed. Like there's some things like that in that episode where I'm like, man, they cooked. So yeah, I loved The Road to the Sphere. I've seen it a lot of times at this point, I won't lie, because I watched the season
Yeah, you are this
ahead
guy.
of time, and I love a good Wheel of Time rewatch. There are always
Yes.
little hidden details, and this episode is filled with them. And yeah, like Victor said, this is the first episode, not being a book reader, where I get what the stakes of the whole story are.
I
And
agree.
this was important for that. Like we saw essentially what is ground zero for where the conflict between the Dark One and the Dragon Reborn started, which was Mira and Sedai, Lanfear, trying to do this thing she thought would revolutionize the world by giving it a new source of magic. And instead she accidentally opened this other dimension where a boundless evil that is borderline incomprehensible lives. So
Oops.
yeah, interesting. It was a really good episode, and there are other good episodes ahead, but I mean
Yeah, I was gonna
this
say
is my
we've both
favorite.
seen the rest of the season, and
It's
I
all
don't think it
good.
quite gets there, but like there's other really good stuff coming.
Absolutely. I think people are going to be very happy with the one that's coming out tomorrow. You know,
Mhm.
every episode from here to the end is gonna be great. Like it won't be Road to the Spear, because that is, I like the Wheel of Times kind of
You
format.
could tell that Rafe Judkins really wanted to do that. You
Yes.
could just tell in the pauses, in the way moments are stretched out, in the way everything is so pointed, in the way that, like, when it goes back to the columns of Randa's, like, just in slow motion screaming, just kind of walking the sand, the otherworldliness of it, that he loved it. You can
Yeah.
feel the love when someone loves something. It comes through, and I felt the love on that.
So here's the fun thing. So Rafe Judkins, the showrunner, he wrote this episode. He's
Mhm.
talked about how he wrote it because if any other writer on the show wrote it, the studio would have been like, hell no, we're not doing that. So he wrote it. He was on the Dusty Wheel, which is this Wheel of Time community talk show, after the episode aired, and basically he said when the producers at Amazon, who are very supportive of the show, but one of them was
Mhm.
like, they read this part of the book and then messaged him and were like, oh, great, we can skip all that Aiel stuff. And then he responded and was basically like, not only are we not skipping it, I want to devote a whole episode to it. And like, that's the feeling of this thing. Like this is an iconic part of the series in the books. And they understood that not only is it important for that reason, but it's also just important to, like Victor said, like understand, for Rand to understand, and therefore for viewers to understand what's at stake. So yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. I
The
loved The
importance
Road
of
to the
vision.
Spear.
I am intrigued by Victor's comment. House of David is the actual most faithful adaptation of Tolkien on Amazon Prime. Makers of House of David clearly love Lord of the Rings and lay tons of little nods. I'm
Okay.
gonna I will watch this. But we already went over like why there are 30 shows coming. It's gonna be hard to find time. I'm
But you
interested.
will do it.
I'm watching Mystic Quest. I'm really liking Mystic Quest.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
so fun. It's
Mythic
fun
Quest is a
living.
great show.
God, it's good to have just a good half-hour comedy. It's also in the
Yes.
nerdy space. Also helps.
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
dude,
Um,
The Righteous Gemstones. Do you watch that at all?
I have not watched that yet. No.
The season 4 premiere was um, was a complete episode of a flashback to a civil war. It was a civil war drama,
Wow.
which
Okay.
was unexpected and fun and cool. That show is ambitious and interesting. I like that show. I will watch
Cool.
probably the next one tonight.
That's really cool. Yeah, I haven't gotten on with that show. I've just been so deep in Wheel of Time
Of
land,
course.
that really it's eating up a lot of my viewing time. I have episodes of a show I'm very excited to watch that comes out in May that I haven't even touched yet. So I need to get on it. Um, that's Murderbot. I'm very excited for
Oh,
Murderbot.
right.
Um,
And I'll
so
just say again, I just got The Last
yeah,
of Us screeners as we were recording.
yes. The only other thing I want to mention in terms of what we're watching, reading, I am just about to finish this book called The Raven Scholar by Antonia
Ooh.
Hodgson, and it's like a medieval like political murder mystery type drama where basically this scholar, there's this festival where people compete to basically become the next emperor, like one person from each kind of
Mm.
deity's faithful, as it were. And there's one of them gets murdered, and then this
Oh
scholar
no.
gets wrapped up in it. Really, really good immersive book. It's kind of like told almost from the viewpoint a little bit of this raven deity who thinks it's very magnificent. So there's lots of very fun language and stuff like that. Yeah, great book. It comes out on April 15th. So I'm just wanted to shout that out because I've read this thing is like 650 pages. I've read most of it in the past like week. So it is
You
very
also.
hard to put down.
And I have read most of The Hedge Knight by George R. R. Martin. I think I'm going to read the rest on the plane to
Yes.
the offsite. And
Do it.
yeah, it's wonderful. It's great. We'll talk
Cool.
more about that later, though. Let's go to
Yes.
the WiC News Lightning Round, where I think I might break to discuss something bigger at the end of it. But let's go through and give our 20-second opinions on all the news stories we couldn't get to the main body of the show. Daniel, are you ready?
Okay. I was born ready for the
I'm gonna,
lightning round.
I'm gonna ask you first. Daniel,
Okay.
there are Wheel of Time prequel movies kind of in development, but if they happen, they will have nothing to do with the show.
Yeah, exhausted sigh for me about this. So these
Sure.
Wheel of Time prequel movies, they're Age of Legends movies. It's the same people. It's iWatt Productions. They are the ones who made the Winter Dragon, that little late night television pilot with Billy Zane to keep the rights to the series. They have a habit of announcing things and not following through. I'll believe it when it happens, baby. Um,
Mhm.
all right, Dan. Oh, this is sad. Or is this sad? You tell us. One Piece co-showrunner Matt Owens is leaving the show after season 2.
Yeah, there's two showrunners. I forget the other one's name, but Matt Owens just kind of said, like, I've been working nonstop for years. I need a break. It all sounded very amicable and normal. It didn't sound like it's bad blood or anything. Just like, I need to just take some time off, play some Marvel Rivals. He said, get my game up in that. So he's finished season 2, but I think he won't be back for season 3,
Yeah.
which is probably already getting made. Or One Piece is like 30 gajillion chapters. Maybe he'll take season 3 off from next season 4. I don't know. But yeah, that's happening. That show's coming out this year. Okay, Buzz. Uh,
Nice. I like this
Daniel,
buzzer more. It's fun. It's got character.
the
Yes.
the Game of Thrones video game, Game of Thrones King's Road, is now in early access.
So it is. This is the game from Netmarble where you roam the Seven Kingdoms and you slice up monsters and bad guys and stuff. Um, I have been on the fence with this because it is largely a mobile game, but it's also
Mhm.
on Steam, I believe, on PC. So if you want to try it early access is kind of like where you can give feedback and stuff on play. So maybe sign up for that if you want an early look at the game. Um, all right, Dan. Disney Plus is developing a Power Rangers reboot.
Hey, I am of a certain age, and I was very into the Power Rangers when I was a wee youngin'.
Me too.
None of which means I would watch this. I left this behind a long time ago. I'm, a revival of an old series from the 90s, 2000s. I'm sure it'll be like every other revival of said series, a little nostalgia tradie. I think it might be not. I don't know. Go ahead. Go off. Have fun.
Man,
What?
I really want to shout out this comment from Michael Merriam, but it can wait till
Do
after
it.
the. Okay. Michael Merriam in the chat says every episode of Wheel of Time season 3 so far is rated higher on IMDb than every episode of Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, and all but 2 of House of the Dragon season 2.
I think that tracks.
I think
I
that
mean,
tracks with the
I think the
quality of the
first three. I
seasons.
thought the first three were like good. I don't know if I'd call them like absolutely amazing, but okay. We can't get distracted. I have things to say about that. But
Thank you,
okay,
Michael.
we're
Thank
worried
you.
about. But yes, true and
Yes.
accurate, good statement. Okay, Daniel. In its
Yes.
first weekend, speaking of revivals, the live action Snow White movie has made $89 million on a $270 million budget.
I have nothing to say about this because I'm not surprised because I didn't even know this movie was coming out. I feel a little bad for the star Rachel Zegler. I read a Variety piece about how they're setting her up for failure with this to scapegoat her on it, and that's real sad. But I'm not sad this movie is tanking because damn it, Disney, stop making these live action
Cut it
remakes.
out. Come on.
I don't like them. I do not. I never have. All right. Oh, we already mentioned this, but you can talk about it some more because you must have an opinion. Severance has been renewed for season 3,
It
obviously.
has. It was like right after it. Yeah, obviously. Yep. They haven't said how many seasons they exactly want to do, but they said they have a plan. So whether it's 3, 4, I can't imagine it. This isn't going to be like a super, super, super long show. After season 2, it felt very cohesive. I have a trust that they have a plan in mind. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to it more. Bring it on. Daniel, I know you love this topic. Nick Frost, the British comedian who I think was in Shaun of the Dead and those things, right?
He was. I
Is
like Nick Frost.
very probably going to play Hagrid, the kindly groundskeeper, at Hogwarts in HBO's new Harry Potter TV show.
Yep. Nick Frost is a. I don't know if this is confirmed that he's playing Hagrid in Harry Potter. I am morally, physically, spiritually opposed to this Harry Potter show. So
I know
it's
nothing
like
of
you
it.
picked all the things that would annoy me for the lightning round. It
Yeah.
makes me like this is sad, but I like everyone who was announced for this show a little less than before it was announced they were in this show. So sorry, Nick Frost. I wish you made a different choice.
Okay. For this last one, can we just take off the 20 seconds? It won't be long, I swear, like a minute, but there's this developing story where
Lightning
Dis-
storm.
Disney is doing this has been going for over almost 5 hours now. They are slowly announcing the cast of Avengers Doomsday, the next Avengers movie. And so far, we have Chris Hemsworth, Sebastian
Oh.
Stan, Anthony Mackie, Danny Ramirez, who plays the new Falcon guy, Paul Rudd, Alicia Wright, who's the new Black Panther, Robert Downey Jr. as Doctor Doom. And then the X-Men are in it, the old X-Men, Kelsey Grammer as Beast, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Magneto, Alan Cumming, Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romaine, Mystique, James Marsden, Cyclops, Channing Tatum.
Huh.
He's Gambit, right? We got
Oh, they're
Shima
bringing
Lu.
him back. That's funny
This
because he
guy.
was only he tried to get a Gambit movie made and he couldn't, and then he was
He
Gambit
was
in
in Deadpool and
Deadpool and
Wolverine, yeah.
Wolverine. Yeah.
It's got Tom
Sorry,
Hiddleston. It's got Tenille Huerta, who I believe was in that.
Black Panther, Wakanda
There you
Forever.
go.
He
Sure.
was I forget the guy's name. The villain. Thank you.
The Fantastic Four
Namor the
cast is in
Mariner.
there. The Thunderbolts cast is in there. So a lot of people.
Simu
I
Liu
guess the
from Shang-Chi.
I mentioned Shima Lu. I guess the big thing is that the old X-Men are going to be in it. How does that work?
Well, this is presumably going to be a multiverse movie. That's the thing they've been building
Sure.
up. They can do it. However, we have seen, Kelsey Grammer, Patrick Stewart. We've seen both of them in other MCU projects. Patrick Stewart was in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Kelsey Grammer was in an end credits scene for I don't remember which movie.
I don't even know.
So yeah, like who said this? Michael Merriam again. Sup, Michael? The X-Men is actually a huge announcement, and it is like not just that it is some of the X-Men, but the amount of X-Men character, like Alan Cumming as Nightcrawler, Rebecca Romaine as Mystique, and James Marsden as Cyclops. Those are some really exciting things. I hope that Marvel can turn the excitement train around in time for this movie.
It
That's the
smells like a
concern.
gimmick, though, doesn't it? Like if it was like new actors playing the X-Men, like they're not bringing all these folk back to be part of the MCU going forward. They're not bringing back Ian McKellen to play Magneto in future movies. This is going to be some kind of little side bit. it might even be like one scene where it's like winky winky, or they might be involved in this movie in a bigger way, but they're definitely not going to be involved in the bigger universe going forward.
Yeah, that is definitely the question, I think. Is this just one scene? Are they bringing them back for a very brief cameo and they're front loading the excitement? I think I think you're right. They're probably not setting them up to be like the next generation of X-Men.
No, no
But
way.
what Deadpool and Wolverine did was essentially say we can bring these characters back and treat the Fox movies as though they are also the bastard cousin canon of the MCU because they referenced a bunch of Fox X-Men stuff in those movies, which I don't think is a bad choice because there were some good movies in those original X-Men movies. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with this. I am it does smell like a gimmick. Like Victor said, Avengers, please buy tickets. The title of this movie. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
Like Victor says, they're going to take a bow. I can believe that too. I will
That's what
say,
Deadpool and Wolverine was in its way, like bringing back Elektra and Blade. It was essentially their take a bow movie.
I guess, take a bow movie. I mean, just make a good meaty movie. Kudos to Disney on the marketing. A lot of people are watching that little chair stream, so
Yeah.
good on that.
It broke our lightning round, so good job, Disney.
Yeah,
No one
good
else
job,
could do it,
Disney.
but the Avengers could.
And on that note, we will say adieu. We're here every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, talking about sci-fi, talking about fantasy, talking about movies, TV, books, here in the Winners Coming YouTube and Facebook channel. Hope you'll join us. And if you can't watch us live, you can always watch us on YouTube afterwards or download us in podcast form wherever podcasts are available. From me, from Daniel, my curtains, and the dog, have a great day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Take care. Take care, all.